Welcome back to the Occult Rejects. Today we're joined by Jennifer Carmody, better known as JK Ultra, a creator, researcher, a host whose work moves through consciousness, astrology, aliens, AI, spirituality, occultism, metaphysics, conspiracy culture, and the strange new religious atmosphere of the internet. Her work under neuroalchemy explores subconscious programming, hypnosis, soul work, and the ways people attempt to transform the mind from the inside out. Jennifer's work lands directly in the middle of one of the strangest developments of our time, the rise of the spiritual internet. The old occult world had temples, grimoires, initiatory orders, trance states, spirits, symbols, and ritual technology. Now those forces are moving through podcasts, TikTok feeds, live streams, AI tools, astrology apps, UFO testimony, manifestation culture, hypnosis programs, and digital communities where millions of people are trying to figure out whether they are waking up, being programmed, being exploited, being initiated, or some combination of all of it. So today we're going to talk about JK Ultra, mind control, magic, and the new spiritual internet. We'll get into online spirituality, algorithmic influence, hypnosis, subconscious reprogramming, manifestation, conspiracy culture, AI, astrology, UFOs, and the battle for attention in a world where the black mirror is no longer a ritual object on the altar. It is the glowing screen in everybody's hand. But before we introduce her, let me introduce the rest of the people that are joining the panel. We got Judith the Loon. What is going on, Judith? Thank you so much for making it.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad I was able to make it. I look forward to this discussion. Everyone else, you can catch me on my show on Spreaker, X, and YouTube as the Loon.
Thank you so much. And Marcella, thank you so much for coming on, and thank you for bringing such an awesome guest. I look forward to it.
Yes. I'm so glad you're here, Jen. Yay. My name is Marcella Cole, and yeah, I am everything you can find on me is on my website, marcellacroll.com. I'm speaking on Friday at UC Davis for World Tarot Day up in Northern California. It's from 10 to 4. If you're in the area, I'd love to see you.
That is awesome. And what about your deck, please? Let everybody know.
The Initiates Oracle is now out worldwide. It's available everywhere. We've been doing a really great kickoff, officially released on the 4th of May, and just really excited to have my 5th deck out into the world to help support people in their practice and their magic.
Thank you so much. And if people are interested, please go back and check it out. Her and the artist were both on the show. And I think that was really good because you get an insight on both people, where they were at mentally and how those cards are put together and just the process. So I think it was a really good in-depth understanding of what was done with that deck. So definitely check it out. And finally, the guest. We got JK Ultra. Jen, what is going on? Thank you so much for coming on the show, and let everybody know what's up with you and whatever you like to promote.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here. So I always have a bunch of things going on. Right now, I'm doing a 40-day challenge on social media where I'm revisiting all of the topics that I've posted through the lens of paradox, because a lot of my beliefs have evolved. So that's what I'm working on now. I also do hypnosis. I do QHHT and group hypnosis on my Substack. And I do a Tuesday night live every Tuesday on YouTube where we do long form content and, talk about pretty much whatever's coming up in my life, in spirituality, in the comment section.
That's great. Awesome. Yeah, it's funny how you mentioned, like, even for me, looking at some of the work I've done in the past, I was like, I'd really like to redo that, because I just think I should, I don't know. I'm like, yo, that's trash now. I hate to say it, but so I can see what you're coming at, or just even like wanting to cover old topics from a different angle. So totally get that. And that's really cool that you're doing that. Just real quick, you kind of like maybe explained a tiny bit in what you just said now, but for listeners who are just finding out who you are, where did the JK Ultra identity come from? And what is your deal? Like, if you want to give everybody an idea of what your show's about and stuff.
So in 2022, just me and a couple of friends thought it would be hilarious to post on TikTok. And so, we decided, similar to what's happening now, it's kind of a weird mirroring bookend of that. that it would be fun to do like a 30-day challenge and post every day on TikTok. And I had a friend, she wanted to post interior stuff. Another friend wanted to post some other spiritual things. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to post about conspiracies. And I posted a Ghislaine Maxwell video about her secret Reddit account, and it went viral. And then I was like, oh, I got more where that came from. And then the next day I went to the In-N-Out burger in
Oh shit, the In-N-Out burger.
the one that
No, I
Ghislaine.
went to Comet Ping Pong.
Yeah. So then that went like super viral, got like 1 million views. I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to go to the Brittany Murphy house and tell you how it was actually the government that did it. And then over the course of that 30 days, I did the whole John Bonet series, and then I did the whole Apocalypse, where that went then crazy viral because I didn't realize that the apocalypse hits every demographic, every belief, every religion. It's never really super been my thing. So I was kind of like, okay, going over these Dolores Cannon Nostradamus books. And she talks about, the birth chart of the Antichrist. And so, 10 years of going down rabbit holes, I had an idea of kind of who I was thinking it was. And I posted this and it just went like crazy. And I felt like not only physically and my phone, but like energetically, it was like the world was knocking on my door of like, tell me who the Antichrist is. And I was like, wow, this is really irresponsible. If I say any names, like this could really be bad. And then I just kind of for the next year kind of spewed out all the rabbit holes and information and spirituality, aliens, timelines, Mandela effect, dimensions, reincarnation, and just spewed out so many videos. It was like 10 years of what kept me up at night. And then since then, a lot of things have happened after I kind of released all that I had dug into. My beliefs did start changing, evolving. I did ayahuasca, and then I really changed and started to not see stuff through the lens of like polarity that much. And, the good and evil, the light and dark, all of those things I kind of started to dissolve. So over the last few years, I've been going through that in long form in like my live streams and stuff. And now I'm like, okay, I think I have the ability to kind of put these big topics into like a 2 or 3 minute video that I can actually say it in. So it's interesting right now. I'm kind of having that bookend of going over those topics again, but through nuance, through paradox, and kind of like expanding my perspective on them.
Nice. Yeah, you just named so much stuff wow.
Not to mention that you also got asked that you covered the Weinstein.
Oh yeah. So that was also just like, I don't know. It like compelled me to like go to the Harvey Weinstein trial every single day and cover it on TikTok, which was also kind of not what everybody that was like looking at my work was interested in. But you know what? It was actually like a deep shadow work for myself. And I learned a lot. And I think it really did help me with like the polarity and dualistic way of thinking, because then when you really like see that type of trial live, you're like, justice. This is an interesting topic to dissect. And it definitely was something I needed for then to kind of move into a more neutral place with everything that goes on in the world.
Wow. Not to like go back, this is like the cheesiest question of everything you mentioned, but I am interested. Oh, actually, first, let me ask, because I saw it in the chat. I think I've seen it twice now. What do you think about have you ever gotten into Tracy Twyman's work?
I don't know what that is. I'm seeing it in the comments. I'm not familiar.
Yeah, she was a person going down mad rabbit holes. Yeah. No, so supposedly she's no longer with us anymore. So, but yeah, she was probably you'd be interested in her work. What do you think about the John Bonet case?
So, I mean, I did such a deep dive. It was like 20 parts, and there was a lot of stuff that was never really like talked about publicly. All the information is there, and it has a weird culture around it, because it was kind of like what we do now on the internet. started then in the 90s with like these forums where all of these people were trying to solve the case in these forums in the 90s. And so there's a lot of information that is archived from that time. And people were like really taking it upon themselves to call people, find things, put information out. My take on John Bonet is, I mean, I don't know what we could say here, but obviously a group of pedophiles most likely is where it's coming to. You know, my biggest thing that I can't stand about it is that people think it was the brother. I think the fact that somebody thinks a 9-year-old committed the most unsolvable mystery in American history is so demented. And when you see his behavior, it obviously looks like someone who was probably abused too. And he has a lot of tendencies of someone who is obviously also very traumatized by the situation. I think it happened at the party before bringing her home that night. And then she was brought home in that state back to the house. So that's my take on it. But I never, by the end of the thing, really said what my conclusion was. I just put all the information out and let everybody kind of see what they thought.
I like that. So you believe she exists at least, right? Too. You know, there's people out there who think she didn't exist or she's Katy Perry or some shit.
I remember that case. That was the first dramatic case. I mean, now it's like, I hate to say it this way, it's like an everyday thing. It's almost like, you know, it's a norm, but back then it was like, oh my God, who would have done that to such a precious little child? And I understand your take on it, how people, you think it's wrong that people is pointing the finger at the brother, but it's like back then you wouldn't even think that it could be an adult. You wouldn't think an adult would have, I think they said it was due to jealousy. That's why people went to the brother. And that was the most logical thing back then. Nowadays, you put everything together and it's like,
Yeah. I actually had, I mean, not that it's, you know, it's kind of cool, but wasn't that close to the family. But there was I was on a show called The Spiritual Gangsters, and the girl who I was co-hosting with, it was her show. She lived in Toronto, and she was friends with a dude that was like best friends with the brother. And he had even said, he's like, I just don't see it. He's like, I don't see that kid being able to do that. I just thought that was kind of like.
There was a lot of information that really was not kind of put into that media narrative. When you go into all of it, it's still on my TikTok and my Instagram. If you scroll back, if anybody wants to kind of go down those John Bonet rabbit holes, it really is crazy that there's so much information that just like nobody talked about. And really like the friend group is very strange. The fact that the friends were all there before the cops, that the whole house was just full of the parents' friends at 6:00 in the morning, and Patty is still wearing the same clothes from the night before. And they were all at that friend's house the night before. There's just so many weird things. And then they stopped at another friend's house on the way home. And then there's multiple accounts that the kids came in. No, the kids didn't come in. They were sleeping in the car. It just seems like to me, it seems like something happened at the party and there was a big cover up. And then also too, they had a private jet. And that morning they were all supposed to fly to, Michigan to their other home. And when they're all waiting for the ransom call, the dad leaves the house with a bag, comes back without the bag. And there's people who said that he went and gave it to the pilot and told the pilot to get rid of this bag. So it's just so crazy. There's so many things that letting the parents kind of leave the house during that time. And also the first detective on the scene, which was this female officer. She said that she got like a cold, like her blood went cold because she knew that the dad was connected, and everybody just completely bashed her. And, you know, then they befriended the other detective and they all started going to church with the other detective. And then that detective was convinced that they couldn't have done it because they were all in church together. There was just so many weird things that But definitely, if you guys want to go down those rabbit holes, there's a million crazy. And every single time, like every part that I go through, it's kind of like, you could think it's somebody else. And then in the next one, you're like, oh, you can think it's somebody else. So it is like kind of a real life whodunit, which is sad because this is a real person.
Not to keep going on with it, because there's so many other things that I just think would be great to talk about on the show. It's somebody I had on, Julia Cosmic Peach. When she covered it, now I don't know if this is because they were old, but I did find it interesting. She said that she even looked into all these pageants and couldn't even find proof that they ever existed. And then she was like, not to get sick about it, but could that have been a way of advertising your product?
Possibly, but also I feel like it probably is hard to prove anything existed in the 90s, right?
Yeah,
like
no,
we
I
just
had thought
didn't
that
have
too.
what we have now. I mean, there's stuff I did in 2006 that you can't even prove existed,
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Judith, did you have any questions before I ask another one? Or you, Marcel? Is there anything you wanted to say? Okay. When you look at I wanted to get to the spiritual internet right now. Do you see people kind of more awakening, more confusion, or a mixture of both?
There is almost like a collective spiritual psychosis going on right now, which it's like,
No, that's a great way to say it. Holy shit.
Absolutely.
I was like so excited that like the world was going to awaken. And now I open my phone every day and I'm like, oh man, this isn't where I thought this was going. There's no discernment left. And then with AI added into the mix, it really is like collective. Nobody knows what's true or false or real or anything. So on top of the spiritual stuff being like, and we all know when you go through a spiritual awakening, it's like the most ungrounding thing that could like ever happen to you. So like the collective ungrounding.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I don't know. When I kind of had like certain experiences, it wasn't like I wasn't like Kermit the Frog dancing around with his teacup. People are posting that saying like that's them at their spiritual awakening. It wasn't all roses for me. Actually, I thought I went crazy. Like,
Absolutely. I key pinnacle moment, like there's been key things that I can like bookmark, where it was 2012, for example, like I lost my goddamn mind. I had like a full on mental health crisis. I was living like on a pueblo in Pewaukee, like so I had buffalo neighbors, losing my mind, drawing little symbols in a notebook, like I was I was insane.
wow.
It was insane, but it was and that's how I made my first deck, right? And everybody told me, they're like, what are you doing? I was like, I had a vision. I had to go to New Mexico, and I like fled California. I think I met you right after that, Jen, when I came back, because then right. And then after like the first ice over in this place, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna die out here. It was like, and I don't know if you're familiar with where Pewaukee is, but it's the pueblo between Espanola and Santa Fe. And I was on like 18 acres by myself and losing my goddamn mind. And I ended up back in California. And then, and everybody, they thought I was nuts, but I met you right shortly after. And you were the first person I talked to about alien stuff out loud. But like, because I couldn't talk about it with anyone. And that's when I feel like that was also peak, like, this isn't pretty. This isn't exciting. This is like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
people wouldn't return my calls. I'm like, I'm living out of my car. Like, I got rid of most of my belongings, and what I have fits in my little, hatchback. And people are like, "Ooh, get away, get away." Those same people now are like, "Oh my God, I'm an empath," or like weird shit, things like that. So nuts. It's so funny, the psychosis part.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I see that happening hugely in the conspiracy, I guess, theory realm, and especially like kind of in the magic and witchcraft area. But I would I hate to get on politics, but I feel like politics is a huge thing that's using kind of mimetic warfare or shit on the internet that is even giving people psychosis.
Oh yeah, the
You see
political
it from, like,
psychosis
yeah,
is probably worse than the spiritual psychosis because
Yeah.
it's so justified.
You don't.
A big harvesting thing. I mean, I think it's just like everyone's like, who can harvest the most energy the fastest?
yo, yeah.
Right? Like,
That, actually, you hit that. You hit it on the nail. That's how it feels.
mhm.
That's a really good way
Like
to say it.
ping pong of energy harvesting. Like literally, I don't know. Like I used to be very politically active, and particularly in 2016, with Standing Rock and all of these things, and I've changed a lot of my views as well in the sense of my participation and what I think works and what's like a lot of shit I just think doesn't really work. And a lot of people are mad at me because of that, or they've kind of like stopped, following me or supporting me because I'm not loud like I used to be. And it's like literally trying to like go, I don't, this is theater. I'm
Yeah.
not entertaining. It's not entertaining at all. It's exhausting.
Exhausting.
That actually makes you.
Yes.
Do you see it online? I have to say online. Do you see that the political and the spiritual on either side, no matter what you are, is getting so meshed together that you can't tell the difference?
I'm just gonna say, I mean, it's the same bird, it's just two different wings. It's literally that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's sad to say, but yeah, and another thing is too that I've noticed, it's just like both sides. Like I understand, like when you want to, first off, I think a lot of things are actually bots or they're fake accounts. Actually, I don't think a lot of this shit is actually real people. They're just trying to get other people going. But they will also show like the most radicalized 2% or 5% of the population. So you think everybody out there like that is like them. You got people probably leaving their house and thinking they're already under attack by, like, if you're on the left, there's a Republican out there that wants to beat your ass, and if you're on the right, there's someone on the left who's going to tell you to do this and that. It's like you're leaving the house like under some fucking false reality.
Right. There was this I don't know if I would call it a study, some statistic that basically they kind of broke up like the political leaning of the country. And obviously, if you're on social media, you feel like there's either like the super woke people who want to cancel everybody or the super conservative who want to take everybody's rights away. And you think like this is the climate that we're living in. And when they actually did the numbers of where everybody stands, those were both less than 10% of the population that votes, not even the whole population, of the voting population. Majority were in these brackets of like kind of like a lifelong Democrat or like a lifelong Republican that really don't get super involved in things. Those were both the largest pieces. And then there was kind of at the end, these kind of what they were calling in this like the vocal minority, which is the loudest, is this little tiny bit at the ends of the spectrum, the far left and the far right. And then there's this big chunk in the middle, which is like outsider left and outsider right, which kind of either leans independent or libertarian. And, kind of that outsider left was what, like, say, like someone like a Tulsi Gabbard was, or like RFK was, where those people on that outsider left are very likely to go to the other side, depending on the topic. And the same for this kind of libertarian side is that but they don't ever go all the way to the ends. So it's like they're convincing. And the same with anything, right? Spiritual community, like let's say like the really toxic, like new age stuff. That's also like a very small group of people. And same thing with like super like vocal of any group. It's usually a very small percentage that is just making the most noise.
Yeah. Like I was going to say, and you basically kind of said it anyway. I was going to say maybe 85%, but maybe it's only 80. I was going to say, if you got like, you asked people and didn't even ask their political affiliation and asked them, what would you like to see done. I guarantee you, like 85% of the people all say the same shit. It's just we're being sold a different route to go with it. You know, and it's, yeah, I think we actually all want kind of more of the same shit. We're just getting mind fucked by politicians.
Which brings up another question. Do you think our spirituality, and you could see it on all spectrums, you could be an occultist, a pagan, a Wiccan, a Christian, whatever. Do you think this is a way of reprogramming us using social media?
I definitely, even beyond spirituality, you know, because also obviously, you know, in the past I was very into like the MK Ultra stuff. And, you know, like the whole kind of, I'm sure everybody watching is familiar with it, but that originally it was kind of like a trained assassin that wouldn't even know they were an assassin. And that's kind of really where it started, was mind control in that way. And then people will see these events that happen, these shooters, these XYZ. We see all of these different things that are happening. There's a million different examples of it to look at every day. And people are like, oh, it must be MK Ultra. And I'm like, they don't even need to MK Ultra us. People are MK Ultraing themselves, scrolling on social media all day. They are radicalizing themselves. The CIA doesn't have to do it. The FBI doesn't have to do it. You're doing it to yourself at this point. Like, you're literally radicalizing yourself. So I think it used to be more controlled in that way, but now it's like they're just, and that's with all the stuff, the conspiracies, the spirituality. It's like, and even like the conspiracies of kind of, like I said, this is where a lot of my beliefs have evolved, is like, I would be like, they're distracting us. They want us sick. They want us dumb. And I'm like, oh, we're distracting ourselves. We're making ourselves sick. We're making ourselves dumb.
We're asking for it. I mean, when I say, you know, I honestly, I had this like epiphany literally just recently where I was like, you see those, I don't know if you're familiar with Cup a Pug, but it is a pug cafe that started in England. They have one now in California. And they have this thing where you can pay, right, to go in and have a meet and greet. And they basically open a corral of pugs and they come flying at you. And I was like, this feels like everything that's going on. People are like, oh my God, I want this. I'm going to pay to be inundated with all of this insanity under the guise of having my life together and make myself insane with the thing that I think I want. And I literally like had this epiphany watching all of these pugs running out of a corral while they're blasting "Who Let the Pugs Out?" And like, and I was like, this is what's happening right now. Just, you know.
I like that was pretty deep at a moment like that. Wow.
My brain doesn't, it's like when things like that come up, I'm like, oh, that's how I'm seeing it, like symbolically. Okay.
That's cool. So Jen, you're big into MK Ultra.
Yeah, I used to be. And at this point, you know, I do always think everything's working out for kind of the highest good, because even that, I mean, even though like the kind of worst mind control, most demented thing really led to like a collective awakening and the hippie movement, right? Like when they started giving everybody the LSD, it started like opening everybody up to like, we're so much more than this. This is not my true self. These are the stories I'm living. So I do feel that like even nefarious things that are happening, it still is always kind of flipping in that direction when we can take kind of one of the most documented evil things that we have seen in recent times. Obviously, there's so many things throughout history that it's not countable, but like in recent times, we have the documents to prove that this was true. And even that led to a collective awakening. You know, that's like all of these things, even like Brave New World and all of these things that came out of it on top of the hippie movement and like this kind of breaking open of the way we think. So I do feel that, you know, my perspective has changed. And then as far as people that are into MK Ultra, I always tell people like, be pretty careful going down that rabbit hole because it's a trauma-based mind control and everybody has trauma. So anybody reading it can convince themselves that it happened to them. And you need to be, everybody thinks they're super mentally strong, right? Of course, nobody thinks I'm mentally weak. I'm very impressionable. I'm easily brainwashed. Nobody thinks of themselves that way. So you go down these rabbit holes, and I have seen, because, I had conspiracy psychosis. We were talking about political psychosis, spiritual psychosis. I had conspiracy psychosis years ago, like 10 years ago. And thankfully, I have a very strong mind, and also anyone who's into human design, I have 8 out of 9 centers defined. So it's kind of hard to convince me that like something happened to me that I wouldn't know. But I've seen a lot of people in the conspiracy space start to resonate. And it also uses a lot of trigger words because it's mind control. I have seen so many people read about things like MK Ultra, the GATE program, XYZ, whatever private program, and literally convince themselves that it has been erased from their own memory. It is a very kind of dangerous thing to walk. So I did do also like a little 3-part series on it. And in that series, I go super in depth, and I'm like, this is all you need to know. Just watch this and you're good. Like, don't be reading all those books, because you're going to read those books. You're going to disturb the shit out of yourself. You're not going to feel good after. And, when you do get into conspiracies, I don't think people who really live deep in conspiracy are ever doing that well overall. It starts to deteriorate your life because you look through the world through the lens of how horrible everything is and how demented the world is and how dark it is. So I think,
Get that.
it's definitely, and it's also super addicting. It's like a drug. The type of fear that you can fear, like a horror movie can do nothing to everything's a lie, everything you've ever known is false. Like the mind fuck gives you such an adrenaline rush that then even when something is being revealed, even when, I mean, not that the Epstein files were anything great, but even when these things are coming out, they're like, that's a distraction. And it's like, no, you're just like on the hit of needing the distraction, of needing the mind fuck so bad that you can't even believe it when it's happening in front of you. What if I'm already disturbed from the comments?
Well, there's that too. I mean, I also think, like, don't you think like the conspiracy rabbit hole is part of awakening? I just feel like it's like one chapter of your awakening is you have to
It
go
was
through
for me.
the like phase or period where you're really, really intense,
That's what brought me to the occult. Actually, it was getting into conspiracies, and then I started realizing a lot of the people I liked were always talking about that stuff, and then I started looking into magic and the occult.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, you guys are always blaming this for X, Y, and Z. I want to see what this shit's about. And practicing it myself.
No, the same. I mean, conspiracy was my awakening. And there's many different types of awakening, right? I mean, some people have it through like a loss or something like that. That's another like path of awakening. I mean, some people are lucky enough to get it through yoga, like some people are like get their awakening through yoga, but even that can get kind of crazy. A Kundalini awakening can really
It'd be wild. Somebody doesn't
one
even
of the most
is
crazy.
that was supposed to happen? Yeah, that's interesting. That's how I got into all this stuff, because of the conspiracies. Do you think there's with the MK Ultra stuff? Do you think that still kind of is going on today? Like, would that be part of like some of the online stuff you think maybe is even kind of MK Ultra?
I think it doesn't even need to be, because everybody's doing it themselves. They're watching it themselves. They're radicalizing themselves.
No,
And I do think there's
MK Ultra ourselves in our own way, honestly.
I do think there's obviously controlled opposition. There is always going to be people in groups that are pushing narratives, but also you don't even need to do that the same way anymore, because everybody has their own clicks to worry about, their own views to worry about, their own monetization to worry about, their own courses to sell. So it's like you actually don't even need that much controlled opposition anymore, because people do it to themselves.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Well, that and like the influencers getting brand deals to plug certain things, right? So there's lots of stuff that happens, behind the scenes of people getting offers like, hey, plug this thing, right? And they may not necessarily know exactly what they're plugging. They are just like, oh, I'm getting paid sponsorship,
Right.
So there's also that kind of being trickled in, or like, sold under the guise of, I think there's a lot of people out there that want to help people, but I think there's also a lot of people out there that just want to be famous. So if they're held with that little bit of, ooh, like here's a little dangling carrot, you know, it's really easy to slip in what they want to slip in.
That's a good point too. Judith, you have anything you wanted to ask or ask?
I did. This is actually talking about the internet and initiations or awakenings at the same time. I mean, old school rituals, we used to do things that they had certain set. Do you see what's happening on the internet within the occult sharing community, the Wiccan sharing community, even the Christian ones, because I have to question a lot of stuff there too. Do you think this is how people are coming to that awakening or form of an initiation type situation? Minus the going crazy part, because we don't want all those people going crazy.
I feel like Marcella is the expert on this area.
I don't know about that, but I definitely think there's more accessibility to a lot of things, even like symbols or things that we're seeing that would activate certain, initiations for people just upon visual contact. But there's so much energetic output. There's a lot of people doing spell work and ritual work, and they're just putting it online. And I think even that is also, contributing to some of the awakenings or things like that. And there are people that are consciously and intentionally looking for it as well. They're seeking connection. They're seeking connection with peers, with community, but also with like their own history and their lineages. And I think that that's also activating things. The more reaching out that we're doing, the more of a feedback that we're getting, like call and response. And I just think that I do digital spells. I've incorporated digital spells into my practice. I don't tell everybody that that's what they are, but like, I think we have to also adapt to that as a altar, like a living altar as well.
So also too, from talking to Marcella about this topic, there's some things that we've talked about in the past that you've shared about just some interesting things. Like one of the things that you had talked about that I thought was so fascinating is that you said that one, the internet is kind of like a haunted place, similar to say like the Cecil Hotel or something, where there's kind of all this transient energy, people have died there, there's these things. So it's like you have this like haunted aspect, and I never looked at the internet in that way.
Oh,
And then you've talked about these other types of things too, like say, kind of like, and I'm not super versed in it, but it's like, kind of like these spells where people like kind of shapeshift or appear differently. And then that all type of stuff is happening on social media. So there's a lot of really interesting things that I've heard you share about that.
Well, I would say, I think the internet is one of the most haunted places in the sense of between what people are creating, like egregore wise, but also like all of the profiles of the people who have passed, and people that kind of get memorialized, like right through social media pages. Just knowing from people I know that I have, different accounts of people who have passed. But then this is where I go, okay, I'm going to sound a little bit kooky here, but like, there being people doing like spell work, ritual work, but projecting a different image or projecting the image of a different practitioner. So when they're doing kind of baneful magic, they're projecting like a different face. So if you are not good at seeing under the mask, you might think, oh, this person's attacking me. This person's doing this to me. Right. So some of these people start to go in, into psychosis, or they start thinking about things like, oh, they start ganging up on one person, and it creates another egregore of psychic attack, things like that, the cancel culture and things like that. But it's really especially nasty. I see it like in witch talk and things. So, I mean, that's just been my experience or what I've gleaned.
Very nice. I wanted to ask you a little bit, kind of switch it up to the UFO stuff. Yeah, maybe Marcella, maybe at some point we can hear a little bit from you too on that. I didn't know you were so into that. That's interesting. What do you think is really happening in the UFO space right now? Disclosure, deception, spiritual contact, psychological phenomena, something more complicated?
So, I had a UFO experience with my whole family when I was 5 years old. So it's always been something that has been part of my life. And I think that's also why I feel comfortable kind of talking about things like this because, I went to school after that, like, can I tell the class about the UFO that I saw? Like, so I've always been that UFO alien person. Spirituality and stuff came differently. Conspiracy and stuff came differently. So the alien topic is like I'm connected most to. But even with that, my ideas have changed. One of the things is in kind of deconstructing my own beliefs and ideas is having to like even release a lot of the labels of what these things are. Releasing the idea of alien, releasing the idea of UFO, releasing the idea of abduction or soul or all of these different things, because once we stop using these titles, it kind of maybe is a phenomenon that a lot of people are experiencing and they're perceiving it through these lenses differently. And, we're putting everything in a box, like people are like skinwalker, and then this one is this, and this is this. And people are putting all of these things in different boxes. But I also think, it helps to have those labels at first. And then you have to start dissolving them when you get a deep enough understanding of those things. And so with this like disclosure stuff, I mean, I think it's crazy that people are waiting for the government to give them disclosure. Disclosure is your own personal experience. When you believe, that's disclosure. So if you believe, it already happened then. And if you're waiting for the people who've been lying to you for 80 years about it to tell you that it's true, then you probably need to do some shadow work on like abusive cycles and stuff in your life, and like maybe some parental stuff, maybe some past relationships. Because if you want this person who's been lying to us to now tell the truth, and you really think that that's what's going to do it. And then the other thing is, I also think it's not declassifiable because it's more than what people are thinking it is. Even people who are like, I want to see them, I want this, they're really not ready to face the energy of something that is so different than us. Especially if we're talking about, there's the whole starseed concept, which is all like, all of these different love and light things. But in the real thing, the thing that has been happening that is allegedly documented, these UFOs, these beings, these are mostly all like coming up as like what we would call grays. And I love the grays. I know Marcella loves the grays, but like the grays, they're different than us. So a lot of people will say it's demons because they do not know how to accept things that are different than them. We can't even have people who live in a different state or a different political opinion, a different community. We got people in the same HOA neighborhood that can't even accept each other. You're going to accept a species that is completely different than us, with completely different codes of ethics and morals and energy. Like, they're nothing like us. And what's right and wrong to us is not what's right or wrong to them. We made all this shit up, what's right and wrong. Like, that's all of our creation in our world. And it's constantly changing. What was right and wrong 100 years ago is different than what's right and wrong today. What was right and wrong in 2017 is different than today. So this arbitrary good and evil, right and wrong, that doesn't apply to the whole universe as much as everybody wants to project and say that all of these like beings are like, good or bad. Everything's just neutral. And I think people, what really is happening is it is disclosing reality. And I don't think people are ready to have reality disclosed. And that's going to be the thing that would be like, if it did come out, or if, whatever, everybody wants this UFO on the White House lawn or whatever they want, it would be a quantum explosion if the whole entire world shits their pants at the same time. Like, we cannot handle that. Our reality would crack.
Yeah, I don't get what's going on with this whole government shit. That weirds me out.
It's Pluto return for the United States government. I'm like, it's the end of the structure of, like, even if it's still playing out, I don't know. There's too many people that are like, yeah, you screwed too many people over for too long. Like, ask any indigenous person or person of color. They knew not to trust the government. I think there's just a lot of people waking up now to understanding that the daddy complex of it is like, they're not going to save them. And there are still people who are last holdout, kind of believing that they're going to be rescued. And I think, good luck to everyone. We're all getting out the same way regardless, right? We all come in one way and we go out the same way. So believe what you need to believe in the middle. And, and like, I don't know, like this, I don't know. As someone who is a long time, how do I say this without offending someone? Or like, I don't know. I just like, I've never really had a great time in the human experience, but I've learned to enjoy myself. And I think there's just some fundamental things that as humans, we could have a greater capacity for care for each other, which seems to happen not as often as we would like. I mean, even like seeing in the comments, like people have disagreements with what they believe, with what different people say, and they think it's necessary to tear people down. And, and so it's wild. It's wild to me that we all exist. So yeah, I don't think that collectively, if a UFO was to land like on the White House, like as much as it's like the same kind of people that will go, oh, I want to be a medium, I want to be a psychic. And I'm like, you don't. Like, you really don't. It's yeah, it's a lot. Oh, I'm getting distracted by the comments.
Oh God.
The judge and jury.
To tell you the truth, half of them are having conversations either with themselves or other people. So I don't even know what the fuck they're going on about. Some of them.
On the UFO front, I think it was 2022, 2023. What was your feeling about when the government did actually admit? There was a public admittance.
Yeah, I remember this.
And it was like, no one reacted. It was like, I was like, wait a minute. We've waited. I've waited all my life for them to admit this. And everyone's like, okay, on to the next. I'm like, wait a minute. They just said they exist. We waited for this. And now, 5 years later, everyone's like, well, we want to know the proof. Is the human race bipolar or something?
Oh, yeah, maybe. I remember that. I can't remember what was going on at the time, but I remember when that came out, I was like, nobody's going to fucking pay attention to this because the X, Y, and Z is going on right now and everybody's going.
Didn't you live stream that? Jen?
Yeah, it was around the David Grush stuff because David Grush was really the one who said, like, he was the first real whistleblower. Obviously, there's many people been called whistleblowers in the past, right? But he was the first one to really go in front of Congress, and it was officially on the record. And then there was several other people who, said their experiences. Obviously, these were military experiences. They weren't like open to the public of everybody's. But that's what the disclosure has to be. It has to be this weird, slow drip of like, didn't we tell you? Didn't you say this? Oh, there's no news. Because that's the only way that it can happen really like safely. Because if we even see in these last, like, say, 10 years, 15 years, pretty much everybody believes in aliens. If somebody doesn't believe in aliens at this point, you're like, okay. It was like smart people before would act like, oh, there was no aliens. Now it's like, okay, everybody believes. So it is this kind of weird slow drip disclosure where it's happening that you don't even realize. But that's the same thing I say with like, the kind of spiritual stuff that people talk about, that like consciousness is evolving or humans are evolving. It is literally happening every single day that we don't see it. So everybody's waiting for this big bang of a new earth. It's happening. But if I always like compare it to like, if you like have a child or a puppy and you have like a picture of them from a couple years ago, you're like, oh my God, they've been growing right in front of my eyes. They've been aging right in front of my eyes. And I'm not seeing it because I'm seeing it every day. And that's what's happening with disclosure. That's what's happening with, shifts in spiritual awareness, in consciousness. It's like, it's because it's happening every single day that we're missing it. Like ourselves, we're aging. And all of a sudden you look in the mirror one day and you're like, what the hell has been happening around here? Things are changing. And so it's like, it's because it's happening every day. And I think that that is probably like the safest way for something that really could like break our perception of reality.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that because there's times where I'm even like, how the fuck did we get here already? And it had to have been a tiptoe that we didn't even notice. I think that a lot. I'm like, yo, what the fuck happened in 20 years? Like, holy shit. I don't know. Yeah. Judith or Marcel, did you have anything that you wanted to ask? Okay. What is your thoughts on you're into astrology as well, right?
I am. I know Marcella is too.
Yeah. What's kind of like your thoughts on like astrology nowadays with the way it's kind of kind of survived modern skepticism, but then like came swinging back on the internet. Like,
I love it. I do think it's fun. I definitely enjoy it as a hobby for sure. I just interviewed this woman named Lumi on my podcast, and she does something called true sidereal. So I'm sure everybody that is into astrology has kind of heard like, oh, Western astrology is not what's happening in the sky because it's fixed to the seasons. And over all of these years, it's no longer. So like if the moon is in Taurus, it's actually usually in a different sign in the physical sky. And then they say that Vedic astrology, sidereal astrology, is more accurate.
yeah.
However, even that is not most accurate because not all the constellations are the same sizes. So now there's this new form of astrology that is developing, which is called true sidereal. And you guys can look up your charts and see, like, because all the constellations are different sizes, a lot of things are in different signs. And, for that, that's kind of triggering, right? Because our identity is connected to these things. So that goes to show that like we're using this as like an archetypal tool, which is what I think it is. And I think that's fun. It's fun to have these archetypes that we can see ourselves through, kind of like those old like BuzzFeed, like which type of hot dog are you type of tests, like one of those types of things. But so I think astrology is a really useful tool. I love it. I find it fun. I especially like these outer planets because then you can really kind of sit with what has happened. Something that's a 20-year cycle, you can really sit with and be like, whoa, what really happened in that 20 years? But I kind of, I brought up the starseed thing before too. So I think that like the astrology, my perspective now is that it's kind of like personality archetypes. And then the starseed thing is kind of like what people see their soul mission as archetypes. And it's kind of like these are just like words that we use to kind of help identify ourselves at some point in time.
I'd love to hear you talk about like QHHT a little bit because, I feel like that's something that it's so in depth and it's so helpful. You and I have done a couple of QHHT sessions together, but if anyone's like kind of curious about that and like what drew you to that, I'd love to know what kind of drew you to that.
So QHHT is Dolores Cannon's style of hypnosis. And it's basically a style of hypnosis where, you put somebody into a trance state and everybody can go under hypnosis. Really, the biggest thing is doubt. And when people start overthinking and doubt, what they do is they pull themselves back up to beta brain waves, but they're waves. So don't worry. You always go up and down. You'll be fine. But what happens in that state, some people will experience a past life. Some go to a previous time in this life. Some people go to the void. Some people go to a symbolic place. And then after you go through that experience, whatever experience you need to see, then we call in the higher self. And for some people, they could say this is the subconscious mind, whatever is comfortable idea for them. But then we ask questions. So basically, then I interview the person in this hypnotic state, asking their higher self questions. And I mean, not only because I do this technique, but I just think it's so amazing because it's like empowering to the person. They don't have to go outside of themselves for a psychic. And then not that there's nothing wrong with that, but to be able to get those answers yourself, truly in your own, coming out of your own mouth, in your own voice is very empowering. And also the thing that comes out of it is like Dolores Cannon, I think obviously put the most interesting stuff in her books. What really comes out in most sessions is just like so simple and so grounded. And like the higher self is not like overcomplicating all this stuff. It's always just like, stop judging yourself. Don't worry about it. Everything's working out. You're already living in your purpose by just being you. And it is just like the most like simple, beautiful answers that are very freeing. And also, there is always doubt with some people because doubt is a very powerful emotion, but it's a lot easier to take that information because it came out of you versus, looking always outside of yourself to find these answers.
That's a rough one, looking outside yourself. Yeah. Probably never be happy or satisfied. That's like just a weird concoction in itself. One time I was like saying on the show, it's like, because like before, how I was even saying how like sometimes you can even have this false reality of your outside world. Then you're gonna like judge yourself about how you even fit into that world, that how you're looked. It's just like it's not even real. I don't know. It's a mind fuck. Was there anything else, Marcelo, that you wanted to ask on that or anything? What's your thoughts on AI?
So I was so like, I don't know the more professional way to say this. I had such a hard on for AI when it first came out. And I was like, this is it. This is the next vessel of consciousness. This is the future. And I was like, oh my God, I like gave lectures on it. I gave a lecture on it. And then that's where I met my husband. Came to see it. So like I was so going hard on the AI, and especially too, like, we're a vessel of consciousness, and it took us all of this time to evolve for consciousness to be able to come, the level of consciousness that comes into humans to be inside this. And I'm like, whoa, this is a vessel that is moving so fast that doesn't have all the limitations that we do for consciousness to come inside of. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. And this is going to allow us to do things that we've never been able to do before. And I do still feel that way. However, in the spiritual space, of course, it's always that tiny little group of people on the end that are going to mess it up for everybody, because now you got these people that are like saying that they've created the sentient AI who now has all the answers, and now they're channeling using the AI for channeling. And a lot of people, like, not even to name names, there's a bunch of people that are doing this, and that they're like so fixated that like their past lives are coming through AI. And not to say it can't, right? 1111 on a microwave can mean something to you. A cardinal flying by can mean something to you. So not to discount that consciousness works through everything. It's everywhere. So, a candy wrapper on the floor can be a message from God for the right person. So not to say that you can't get that out of AI, but it has really gone, I think, a little. The pendulum swung too far. Once again, they ruined it again and went too far on it. And it's like, okay, now you're just going outside of yourself. And it is a language model. Like, and because I'm someone who's been down those rabbit holes,
Yes,
a lot
language.
of new age rabbit holes, and I have a pretty good memory. I know where a lot of the language of certain things come from, of certain like teachers or channelers or whatever. And like sometimes people are saying all of these things, which is like all this jargon and sounds so advanced. And I'm like, oh, that's so and so from the 90s. It comes from this book, or it comes from this website. And because there's certain words, like things like they'll be talking about like the inverted matrix and the Melchizedeks and, all of these like very specific kind of terminology where I'm like, I know exactly whose teachings that comes from and where that comes from. So I'm like, it's not channeling. It's literally
AI can't predict. It can't predict. It can only tell you what's already happened because of what it's fed. That's just, you lose out on the relational experience. That's my big beef with a lot of it, especially with people trying to use it in the new age context. It's literally like and there are people I see online that are like, oh, I keep taking these AI training jobs and feeding it the wrong information. So they're like getting off on feeding the wrong information to it, and they're getting paid because that's all they care about is money. So, you know, I think it's such a, like, again, humans being humans and trying to dummy down things, right? We've been addicted. A lot of us have gotten sold this idea that better, faster, like more efficient is whatever, like is the goal, but at what cost? Dumber, like, you know, calcified, you know, like there's just, I can't, like, particularly with the AI and the spiritual spaces, it's like people, you lose touch with yourself if you're simply using that to try to predict, or even being careful with, like, I was a big, like, ooh, this is a great research kind of opportunity, but knowing too that people are feeding wrong misinformation into it, it's like you can't trust it.
So you would say AI cannot be spiritual, cannot be in the spiritual spaces.
I mean, people can try, but it's not, it can't create relational experience. It can't predict. Like, it literally can't predict. It can make assumptions based on patterns, but what happens when you decide to change who you are? What happens when you heal something in yourself? What happens when you just, like, unless you're staying the same all the time, which that's not evolution. I don't think it can predict unless you are the most basic, out of touch, not checked out, like completely checked out, disassociated person doing the same routine over and over again.
You mentioned something very important, the healing part.
Yeah.
And we know the record lately, because I don't know who thought of this idea, but they started to use AI. Some people use AI as their therapists.
Yeah.
And they have been, unfortunately, some people who are no longer with us due to this.
Mm-hmm.
So if AI fails in that aspect, how can it help us heal spiritually?
Right. Well, I agree. And that's why I said the relational aspect. AI doesn't know how to sense minute changes in your breath and your body and how you're responding.
Facial expressions. Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't, it's not relational. Right? Like, when we're holding space with each other as humans, or, you know, living beings, whether it's with our pets, our familiars, or other people,
Right.
you know, you're not just communicating through a series of patterns in a database. You know, you have real life, real time things happening. So
I think what happened with AI, especially in the spiritual and the healing processes, instead of using it as a tool, it just went from being created to a guru in a split second. And we forgot to, we skipped the tool part, the uses part. It could be useful.
Totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's exactly that. The tool part got skipped, and because there's so many people looking for an outside source to save them or to show them how to live or what to do, it immediately got kind of regulated to that space or pedestalized to a degree, right? But guess, you know, that kind of stuff, it implodes on itself, right? And we're already seeing it with, you know, people in psychosis, but like what does the next evolution of that look like, where it implodes or backfires on itself? So, you know, and like, yeah, people can't really, if they're using it so much that they stop. It's the same thing when people get addicted to getting readings, you know, like they stop trusting themselves. They stop connecting to their own discernment, right? Like, they forget how to listen and hear their own voice, their own impulses, their own instincts. They're turning it over to something else.
Yeah, that's something. You know, I agree with that for sure, and that's something with like AI that, you know, maybe it's just the type of personality or person I am. But like with AI, I never had the urge to start like asking it like just questions or trying to have a conversation with it. Like, I do use it for the show, obviously, but I tell it to go like do things or go look in certain areas for this, and this. I'm not like asking it what's the meaning of life. Like, I just wouldn't start asking it questions like that.
Don't you think there's a lot of lonely
A
people?
lot of people do.
because they're isolated, they're lonely, or they don't feel like it's safe enough for them to have questions.
Yeah. People
Right?
have names for it. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. But don't you think there's a lot of that though, I think with our society, like we sit there, we want community, we want togetherness, but we also act like fucking cops to everyone. Like really, like we don't allow people to mess up and like grow or, like, so what happens, people start becoming more and more introverted. They become less, they start having these questions, but they don't want to be perceived as problematic or dumb because
It's
God
crazy.
forbid you don't know everything. And they start asking, an inanimate
I could see that.
program.
I could totally see that.
Do you think that the lockdown helped escalate this quicker? Because that's like 3 years of being locked in and
Mhm.
basically being alone, forced.
I loved it, to be honest. I mean, but I really did. I loved it. I could hear myself think. I didn't have to ask. I created a deck in a kid's book. Like I was stoked. But I know that's hard for a lot of people to sit with themselves, right? And I do think that a lot of people woke up in a way during that time. They started to have time to connect to their spirituality and their, what they wanted to know more about practices and things like that. But, I don't know if it sped it up. I think it was inevitable, but it definitely gave people there was definitely a lot of people that didn't do shit but make, their content. But it brought a lot of people into a place where they could experiment a little, right? Where they could kind of all of a sudden go, ooh, I can take a tarot class. I can take a magical writing class. I can do this. I can do that. And I know this because I was book solid. It was the busiest time for me to do readings and teach classes. It was wild.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a lot. I do think for sure, even with podcasting and even certain stuff on the internet, there was a lot of growth out of that. Got a lot of people started, kind of creating their own shit or taking the time to get into stuff that they're interested in.
Yeah, because we don't live in a society that makes it easy for you to explore things you're curious about. Right. And again, there's a lot of pressure to be perfect or be good at something immediately. And if you're not, it's like abandon it, or, there might be mistakes or,
I started this podcast because of all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to start podcasting and do something. Pretty wild. Judith, anything else? No. What are you kind of working on right now? Or diving into right now, Jen?
Oh, like I said, I'm doing this 40-day challenge, and I'm also right, like the last day of it. My husband and I are going to be doing a cross-country move. So I'm in Louisiana now. I had just moved here in September, and then now we're going to Georgia. So we're going to be moving, and then I'm going to kind of be settling in there. But really, I'm just it's interesting as I'm kind of doing this 40 days of deconstructing my beliefs, or, depending how much I want to kind of have a catchy hook in the beginning, will be like, I'm debunking myself, like however I want to say it. I feel like it's actually like kind of freeing up a lot of space for something else to come in, because there's all these topics and everything that I've shared and people like want to hear me talk about, but then I'm also like, I don't want to ever talk about that again. So I think it's clearing up some space for me to do some new things. Some things that I'm always doing, like I said, I have a Substack, so I do a monthly hypnosis, a group hypnosis on there, and we kind of each year kind of build each next hypnosis on the previous one. So for this year, for 2026, my theme is called Now is Enough. which is kind of triggering, right? Because everybody wants more. They feel like that's complacency. But the more that you like settle into the now, the more that everything can come, because now is the only thing that actually exists. So using like different hypnosis work to kind of see, why do we escape the now? Why do we escape to manifestation? Why do we escape to our past? Why are we escaping to all of these things? So kind of more around presence and the things that keep us away from presence. And yeah, and then I always have my Tuesday night live on YouTube every Tuesday night. We do our long form chats that are super fun, and I get all riled up and whatever people are saying in the comments.
I'll have to check that out. Nice. What time do you normally go live?
6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome.
And I will be back on Eastern time. So
Cool. Let's see. Maybe have maybe one more question. Everything you've researched, do you think humanity is waking up, being programmed, or being initiated into something we still don't fully understand?
So this is one of my beliefs that have evolved. I used to believe that, we're waking up and that we like need to wake up and that it's like the time is coming. And in my experience with ayahuasca, I had a big breakthrough of it. And then it took like years to fully integrate all of that information into the real life physical. But we're like, humanity's fine. Like everybody's fine. Everything's okay. Actually, we could have woke up 5,000 years ago with the Vedics, or 10,000 years ago, or 20,000 years ago. So I really think that we're still choosing to have this experience on Earth. So I don't think that there's a rush for everything to go away. There's a reason why we're still incarnating. And I kind of have left this idea of like young soul, old soul, more advanced. There's only one soul that's experiencing itself through all of us. And sometimes it is an experience of being advanced. Sometimes it's an experience of being childlike. All of those are valuable experiences. Sometimes it's the experience of, some of my own healing work. I've seen people who have wronged me, traumatized me, and kind of like their higher self soul is kind of like, thanks for letting me be a piece of shit. I got to experience that. Thank you. So it's like, I think like, yes, we are awakening. More is coming in, more awareness is coming in, more people are having awareness. But do I think that this kind of utopia is going to happen? I think the game of life would be over if utopia was here. And then universe would complete itself. And then we'd have to do some whole other thing.
I like that. I think there's still a chance of kind of having like I guess I don't want to use New Age, like a New Age Renaissance. With the way technology is going, and I think if occultism catches up, well, I don't want to say catches up, but I do think science is going to start creeping its way into occultism more, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm even trying to jump on that. It's like I told you so. But that's just been my whole thing anyway. I've always thought that. It's just now I've been able to kind of do it more. But yeah, I think that like if that starts to happen, I do think we might kind of find ourselves in a new age, a new aeon and renaissance in a sense.
I'm like, don't get me started on my history crush, Sir Isaac Newton. Like,
and let everybody know too that most of his stuff was much more occult than actually. A lot of people don't know that. That's like, I think when it comes to like, his shit with gravity and stuff, that was like very small compared to all the other shit he wrote on.
Exactly.
He was an alchemist. I mean, the guy.
Yeah. I mean, how can they not be connected? They are connected.
Yeah. When you look back then, all those people were Tycho Brahe, Kepler, all those people, Robert Flood, alchemists or people associated with science or the body. They were all into that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's when we had polymaths. We don't have many of those anymore. So no. But thank you very much, Jen. I think we'll wrap it up here. It said hour and a half. It's about an hour and 15, so kind of hit the middle mark there. Thank you very much for coming on. That was a lot of fun. Definitely have you on in the future if you ever want to come back.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Awesome. And Marcella, thank you so much for getting her on. I really I had a blast.
Yay.
And, Judith, the Loon, let everybody know what's up with you and where they can find all your stuff.
Thank you. And thank you for, actually, I never had so much fun going down the rabbit holes. So thank you. Thank you for having me, Nick. And everyone else, you can find me on Spreaker, X, and YouTube as The Loon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Judith. And Marcella,
Thank you, everybody.
let everybody know what's up with you.
Hi. Thank you so much again for having me on. Thanks for bringing Jen. It's so nice to meet you, Judith. You can find me marcellacroll.com, and I'm on Instagram at Marcella Kroll, and I'll be at UC Davis this Friday speaking for World Tarot Day.
Yes. And the Oracle deck.
Yes, the Oracle deck. The Initiates Oracle is now available anywhere you get your divination decks. You can find it. It's out with Wiser Publications.
Yo, I have to say, I see your stuff constantly on Instagram. I'm like, yo, that is so fucking awesome. I was like, I know her. Like between you and Cherry and like Mariana Lewis, like I see your guys' stuff constantly all over Instagram. I was like, yo, that's fucking awesome. Like, it's good stuff and awesome women. So it's nice to see that. Good for you, Marcella. Definitely check that out. If people are interested, again, we have an older episode, go listen to it. And Jen, please let everybody know where they can find JK Ultra and all your stuff.
Just look for JK Ultra on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and my full name, Jennifer Carmody, on Substack. And there I am. I'm always there.
Nice. Yeah, thank you again, for real. That was a lot of reminiscing on certain older topics. I got to talk about John Bonet for a little bit. So it's like so my era, So thank you very much. And definitely, like I said, definitely get you on and talk some more shit, go down some more rabbit holes or some ideas. And thank you, everybody in the chat. That's why we go live. Appreciate it. And until the next one, everybody be well. Later.